Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton. Hi, this is Shelley. If you would like to learn more about astrology, check out Learn Astrology, an ebook digital download online at angeliczodiac.com.
Okay. Hi, it is Shelley Overton, and you're listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast for the week of June 9th. And that's a Wednesday, but I'm doing this early this week because Thursday is the new moon solar eclipse, and it's a pretty powerful energy coming up. And there are a number of different things that are going on. So I thought I would give a little bit more attention to them than I did last week. So pardon me, it's already starting. The angels are in here because I've asked for their help. So I've got Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron, and the planet Mercury, and anyone else who wants to pop in. We've got a lot of help this week talking astrology. So again, today's Wednesday, and I'm doing this for Thursday. I'm going to try and get this up today. And what we're looking at, and I think you can tell whichever side of me I put this on. I think it's on this side usually. We've got Mercury in Gemini retrograde at 20 degrees and 41 minutes. We've got the moon at 1947, sun at 1947. That's when the solar eclipse happens. If you can tell, it's June 10th, 6:54 p.m. I've got it down in my ephemeris as 6:53. So it's 6:54 a.m. And yet they are at the exact same degree and exact same minute of time. So that translates to 6:54, probably also 6:53. So for 2 minutes, they're at the same degree. And then the North Node at 10 degrees and 46 minutes retrograde. And we've got Venus down in Cancer at 9 Cancer. Mars at 29 and 18 minutes. And he doesn't go into Leo until the next day, which is 9:34 a.m. Eastern, 6:34 a.m. Pacific. He goes into Leo. So that'll be really interesting energy as, it shifts from that Cancer energy, which it's been at for over a month, into Leo. But we'll talk about that in a minute. The main part of this is to talk about this stellium in Gemini. And so the stellium relates to the energy of Mercury in air. And Mercury energy is about transportation, communication, thinking, thought, expression, and it's an air energy in Gemini, which means that it's all up in the head, it's in the ethers, it's electrical. The energy of electricity as it comes through our lives, comes through our brain, creates synapses in our brain. And it relates to the things that were observational over the millennia that astrology has been around. But also, Mercury is the god of the messenger god. And so he is the fleet-footed messenger. And that means that the postal service is affected because it delivers mail, which is a means of communication. Radio, podcasting, Sirius XM, TV, broadcasters, journalists, writers, newspapers, everything that falls under broadcasting and dissemination of information. It is the media as opposed to Aquarius, which rules the similar kind of information expression, but on a large scale like the internet or television stations, things like that. It's actually more of the modality to express versus the territory. So we've got Gemini also ruling children's education. We've got it ruling teaching, ergo teaching. We have it ruling small pets and animals, reptiles very specifically, a lot of Gemini energy. Geminis or people who have strong Mercury in their chart have an affection for reptiles. I have an artist friend who is a Virgo, which answers to Earth Mercury energy, but she's got a Gemini moon. And so she paints mostly reptiles. She paints alligators and lizards and frogs, and her art is very vibrant, bright, calm, kind of almost neon colors, and maybe uses neon. And if you want to look her up, I believe her Instagram handle is Megan Bites, but very much the reptilian energy coming through with that. And also vehicles, appliances, neighbors, siblings. That's pretty broad range, but most of what Gemini rules. I'm not saying it's all that Gemini rules, but pretty much I tried to touch on just about everything I could think of that Gemini has rulership over. And so what does that mean? First off, Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. So being in his own sign, it is a very concentrated energy associated with all those things I just listed. I want to say also lyricists. I don't know why, but that also came up. So people who write words for music for a living, definitely going to affect you. And because Neptune is squaring this energy, Neptune rules poets, and poetry is an expression of words. So that will also be a territory covered by this particular transit. So we start with Mercury because Mercury is what everyone is answering to when they're in Gemini. Mercury rules twins, and so there is the duality of energy. Twins split energy into two different factions, and it can be, historically, I think we have the archetype of Jekyll and Hyde when it comes to twins, and that we always see there's the good cop, bad cop archetype, the angels on your shoulder, whispering in your ear, good and evil. So it polarizes, in some respect, your mentality and how it expresses in the world. We say this, but we mean that. We may be with someone at this moment and express ourselves with them and say, yeah, I'm going to do that, and then go over here with this person and express ourselves that way in contrast so that they don't align, that you say you're going to do one thing with this person and one thing with this, but they are at odds. They do not align. And so Mercury does have the energy of the trickster, or the leprechaun is kind of a good imagery, I would say, for Gemini. They can be, my daughter has some of this energy with Jupiter, and I bring her up a lot because it expresses a visualization or, a story that you can associate with this. Oh, sorry. You're on a table. I just knocked it with my knee. It expresses the visual of this energy. And so having any planets in Gemini mean that your planet in Gemini answers to Mercury in air expression. And so you're going to have the mentality around getting your point of view out. You have a clarity of mind that is very fast because Mercury does have a mercurial energy about it. The element of Mercury, if you think of it, it's liquid. Never put it in your hand because it's poisonous. But if you were to have it on a surface, a bowl or something, and tried to push it around somehow, it would continually move. You couldn't pin it down. And that's how the mind of a Mercury-influenced individual works. And definitely Gemini has our awareness popping from here to there and there to here and all over the place. And it's probably one of the most ADD energy signs in the zodiac. I would say probably also Aquarius and Virgo. Yeah, Aquarius, Virgo, and Gemini are probably the ADD signs. And I say that very easily because I know I have some of that energy in my chart. And I don't take offense at it because I know astrologically there are reasons that we behave in those ways with our mentality, that so much energy comes into our mindset that we can't hold on to it. It's just go, 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 which is also probably a really good reason that I took up astrology, because it really stimulates my mind and focuses it in ways. And also computers can do that, which is another reason electronics and phones are on the rise with the Aquarian energy, that we just have to express this electrical mentality in some way that grounds us. And technology can do that. I mean, if you could see my desk, I have 3 computers, a headset, multiple tripods, a webcam, and 2 external hard drives. So 5 means of using electronics, not including another camera that I have right there along with my webcam. So, it's our comfort zone. But, if you feel like you've been labeled ADD, I personally, and I'm not a doctor, that's my disclaimer, but, there are energies in the zodiac that very much address why we feel that way, why our minds work that way. And so I think if anything I can give you from watching this is, right now we have Sun, Moon, and Mercury in the North Node all in Gemini, and we have Saturn in Aquarius. Give yourself a break. Your minds are, off the hook. You're really understanding electrical synapse energy to the hilt. Your minds are just lit up. And so, I've had coffee, so that stimulates the mind, and that just makes it even faster. So know that energy is out there. And right now, it's going to be expressed to the hilt. Okay, what does that also mean? It means for Mercury, we are aware, we are expressing verbally, we are chatty, we want to communicate to people, we want to read. We're going to be reading the news, we're going to be reading information, we are information hounds. And we want to give information because we are curious people and we are seeking information, we are seeking to express the knowledge. So it's going to come out, we're going to talk about it. And that energy is going to be there until Mercury, the Moon, and the Sun move out of this part of the sky and into Cancer. So for the time being, we've got Mercury there. The Moon means we process our emotions through our mind, and it may mean that we're bogged down when we try and go to bed with a lot of thoughts. And my advice to you for that is, if you want to sleep, do one of 2 things. Do a meditation, which can calm the mind, or write all of those thoughts that are eating away at you down on a piece of paper so you can get them out. It isn't necessarily going to make more take their place. It's going to expunge them and get them out. And, writing is a fabulous way to process the energy and to bring it into the material world, which grounds the energy. A lot of times Geminis like to talk to a friend, say, hey, can we just chat? And I know I personally need to get this electrical energy out of my body and ground it. And that's one of the things I do, is talk to a friend or talk to a family member. And so, Moon in this energy means that we may be processing where we're at, because Venus and Mars, both being in Cancers, Venus has desire expressed in Cancer energy, which is the Moon, and the Moon's in Gemini. So the mental energy is still really strong, even with Venus in Cancer. And then because as long as there are planets in Cancer, they're answering to the Moon. As long as the Moon's in Gemini, they're answering to Mercury. Mercury's in Gemini, so he's all about himself. Mars in Cancer answering to the Moon in Gemini, which answers to Mercury. So for all intents and purposes, Mars, Venus, Mercury, Moon, and Sun are all answering to Mercury. And so it can put us in this overload energy where we're feeling overloaded by external stimulation. And so because we also have Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces right now, that's at odds with this energy. And it's ramping up to a direct square. So I talk about squares in my podcast, but I don't necessarily dig really deeply into a square, but I can tell you, I mean, I probably repeat some of what I said about squares, but the square going on between Gemini and Pisces is definitely bringing out a shift of mentality. And Neptune is going to be going retrograde not too long. Let's see when Neptune retrogrades, because that's going to be effectual to what's going on here. It's going to be the 23rd, 24th of June, which isn't too far away. It's only a couple weeks. So we're really already also feeling Neptune in Pisces focusing our energy on reality, in quotes. So I say reality because every individual has their version of reality. We have our way of hearing things, our way of seeing things. Not everybody sees things literally in the same way. I mean, my son claims he has color blindness. I don't. I absolutely don't have color blindness. So how he sees the world is different from how I see the world. He has visual problems with one eye, so his depth perception's off. I have clear depth perception. So every perspective of every person, not only from their physical means of processing energy and processing information, but also because they're in a different place in the world. Every individual around the world has a different environment that they're experiencing. So it is a different reality. But so when I say reality, I mean individualized reality. It is real, it is tangible, I can feel this, but we're not going to get too quantum about what is the nature of reality. If you want to know that, go look at the book, The Nature of Personal Reality by Seth, Jane Roberts. Awesome book. Started my whole tangent on that looking up realities, but phenomenal, awesome, quantum energy channeled. But Neptune going retrograde is going to bring about that shift of mentality from the beautiful, wonderful flowers and dreamy quality that we experience during Neptune direct, alone in and of itself, but compounded by Neptune in its own sign of Pisces. And when it goes retrograde, it acts more like the Virgo, pragmatic, reality, material world-based energy. And it also gets a really hard look at what's going on in the material world versus the dreamscape, the visionscape, what we see as our vision for reality. When Neptune goes retrograde, we want to know how to practically take steps to do what our dream is all about. And because that's about to happen, with a square to these planets in Gemini, it's about our mindset and the vision that we have, the way we express ourselves in a creative sense, in a social sense, and with the collective, the collective unconscious, our subconscious or consciousness, because that's what Neptune rules. Neptune generally is the dreamscape, so subconscious, or when we dream at night, or when we daydream, or what our vision is for our life. Being at odds with Gemini just means that they're talking and they want to give something to the other. Excuse me. They want to try and find some kind of way through this disconnect that they have at being 90 degrees. I'm doing all this. 90 degree is a right angle that is made between the two planets in the sky above the Earth. And so we're in the crosshairs from Earth. We're right at the corner of that 90-degree angle from where we are in the sky. And that means that we are kind of the deciding point of what's going on. Okay, so what we can expect to see from the square between Neptune and the triad of planets and lights at 22, or let's see, let me look it up exactly. I'll tell you the exact degree that it's at. It's at 1947, and it's sitting right in front of me. I don't know. My Virgo defaults to the material. Anyway, 1947 is, an approaching exact to Neptune. It's not exact, but it's very close. And so, and then of course Mercury is at 20 degrees. So they're only 1 degree off at this exact time. And it's a combust Mercury, meaning it's right next to the sun. We've got the moon overshadowing the earth, or no, the sun, excuse me, earth, moon, sun. So there's a solar eclipse. So the sun's the last one, the earth with the moon in between, like a little Oreo sandwich, with the moon being the cream-filled middle. Anyway, so yeah, the moon is nestled between Mercury and the sun. Mercury being the desire to get it out, the information is there. Moon being the emotional connection to what's being said, and the sun being the ego connection, the sense of self, the sense of place in this crazy informational situation. And the sun wants to shine over, and this is an interesting visual. The sun normally with Mercury, it outshines it. That's what combust means, so that it's like, burning up the energy of information. But the moon is saying, no, let's have a reset. We are going to separate Mercury from the sun. We are going to separate, I will tell you what I just got, Donald Trump from the ego, which I don't know how you can do that, but it will be an interesting event. And I can tell you, I didn't want this to be anything about him, but he's such a quintessential example of this energy because that's where his sun is. He's June 16th birthday. So he's got his sun being strongly affected right now with this energy. And his chart always shows women have a very strong interaction in his chart for the life lessons he has. And so that's, the moon is feminine, the moon is mother, and his chart really shows mother issues and women issues. I think his Venus is in his second house of how he earns money. But I don't have his chart up here. I just wanted to say that because he's going to be really strongly affected. There is a separation between the story that's being said and how we integrate it, and how we integrate it through our ego and through our sense of security. And there's a disconnect because the light of the sun, which again usually overshadows the energy in a combust situation, is being overshadowed by the moon. And so the moon is the culmination of an answer. I know there are a lot of political things going on in America right now, and those are going to be front and center, So the lungs, I was just getting something in my body. I'm like, oh yeah, Gemini rules the lungs and breathing, and it's squaring Neptune. So the Mercury energy, which is now in Gemini, was in Pisces a year ago in January. Well, actually, it retrograded at the time. Gosh, what was it? I think it was in Capricorn. I know there was something going on in Pisces. Maybe I should just look that up for a quick second. Let me get that. Okay, so what it was this is my 2020 ephemeris. Mercury was retrograde at the beginning of March, so it started around the 16th of February over to the 9th of March, which is right when all of the COVID started really ramping up, and they had to make the decision whether or not to close things. And so that was kind of the moment of truth, so to speak, when COVID really was coming more full bloom in America. So I always associate that Mercury retrograde. If you want to listen, I have old podcasts on SoundCloud from a year ago. You can listen to it as I am coming up on that event when they finally decided to lock everything down. At least in Florida, it was like really late in the country. We didn't lock down until the beginning of April. So I'm pretty sure it was the beginning of April, or maybe the week before that. So yeah, the moon or Mercury was retrograde in Pisces. So there's a very strong Pisces connection to when it really came to more of a common awareness in America, and then the world, or probably the world as it went across to America. And let's see what degrees Mercury was at during that time. So Mercury was at the very beginning degrees, from 12 back through 28 of Aquarius. And so, yeah, it's definitely going to be affected by this Jupiter transit in Neptune right now. That Jupiter's at 2 degrees of Pisces and not in Neptune, in Pisces. And so he's going back and forth over the same degrees that Mercury was retrograding last year in March. So will that have an effect? Yes. When Jupiter went into Pisces, the CDC and, Biden announced that we could all, just go back to life as normal. In my opinion, it was somewhat like that. If you've been vaccinated, you can let down your guard with your masks and all that. And, I've been vaccinated, but I'm still a little skittish out in public. And Jupiter being right on that Mercury retrograde point, to me, Jupiter represents a transition and transformation. So yes, I can understand why we see that, but Jupiter retrogrades, and he retrogrades almost the exact same path that Mercury took last year. And so let's just see what that is. Jupiter, where are you? Yeah, he goes retrograde back to, he's a little bit quicker. He goes all the way to 22, whereas Mercury went to 28 Aquarius. Jupiter goes to 22 Aquarius, which, if you think about it numerologically, of course, that's the degree that we have all the Capricorn energy going to. From last year, when we had the stellium in Capricorn, it was at 22 Capricorn, and now we have 22 Aquarius. So it's significant. 22, 22 is a master number, but it represents the material world on some level. It represents couples, because 2 is a couple number. And honestly, how I would interpret that, I am not a numerologist either. I'll just let you know that. But 22 is a double number, so twins. And I've actually heard of a number of twins being born now, and Gemini planets, 2. And so, yeah, there's an association with couples, with doubles, duplication of effort, and 4, which 2 plus 2 equals 4, can be a difficult number, but it's also a material world energy, I think, from the 2s. Again, I'm not a numerologist, so I haven't researched 4 to a great length, but let me see. We had a 4-year in 2020, which was just last year. And it was a difficult year. It was a year of kind of getting down and dirty and getting real with yourself. And that energy, when it's triggered numerologically by where the planets land, 22 Aquarius would be getting more real and having an alteration of the information coming from science and technology, things that extrapolate out to the universe, to universal mindset, to the connection that we have to other people intellectually. And so that energy is coming in as well. But Jupiter is a planet to watch over the course of the rest of this year. And then next year, Jupiter gets back to this degree. And so there is a chance that since the first time we took the masks off, there will be kind of like, we had the first time we took the masks off, the retrograde, my guess, is going to be an increase, which I've already heard younger people are having, like the people who are around 20 and 20 to 30 are the ones that are in the hospital right now. And in some places it is on the increase for the younger crowd. And maybe those are the ones that were the last ones to get the shot. So they're still ramping up to get the shot. But, that is coming up again. As Jupiter goes retrograde, I do believe we will see an increase in the COVID illness and coming out again, potentially with other variations, but maybe just the people who haven't had the shots yet. I don't know per se. I would have to probably do a whole chart reading for that. But I can tell you, Jupiter being where Mercury was when this started to really come into America last year, yeah, you got to watch out for it. And I still wear my mask out there. It's controversial. It seems it's always controversial. I don't even know how that became a controversy, because it's like you have a disease. The best way to go about not getting it, because it's airborne, is to cover your mouth and wash your hands. But for some reason, that has to be contentious. I don't understand it. So this chart, like what's going on, you're seeing a chart for Eastern time zone. Originally, I had Eastern, Central, Mountain, Pacific, and Greenwich Mean Time. And then when I started the recording the first time, all of that disappeared. It faded out on my computer and I couldn't get it back. And I had only saved one chart. So I had to get rid of all of it, reboot the Finder, and then start this over again. So there's the Gemini doing it twice. And I didn't do all the other charts because, all the effort to have to go through that and do time zones. But I can tell you, going from this chart going towards Pacific, all the Gemini is going to rotate, I want to say down, and going to GMT. I'm going to just do one real quick chart. Let's just pause the video while I... Okay, I'm just giving myself a little marker there so I know when to change the chart here. So England, the Gemini is in the midheaven, so definitely England is getting a very big hit for this because England, if you'll remember, Pluto, okay, how do I put this? Pluto at 26 is within range of an inconjunct to the Gemini aspect and the new moon and the solar eclipse. You can see it in England, across Europe and parts of the north of America and Canada. But Pluto at 26 Capricorn, the inconjunct, that's the degree, or close to the degree, that America broke away from England. So it's significant. Pluto's position is significant for America. It's significant for England. And having the inconjunct definitely affects England as much as America. And because there is kind of the same polarity in politics in England that there is in America, I definitely think that something will be going on in England politics this week. And then I don't really know. I know that they've got a lot of COVID stuff going on, and I think that it's increasing over there because they have, I believe, the Delta variation of the COVID virus is the most prominent variation or virus right now in England. And so, they're being affected directly right now. So what they're going through is there's a potential that that's what we're going to be seeing. I hope not, but, they're going through a lot younger people going into hospital right now. And then also, I know Boris Johnson's I think he just got married too, coming up into, kind of like here in America, old politics are coming back up. So that kind of thing, that kind of controversy is coming up right now there. Anyway, okay, so Gemini is up in the midheaven over in England. It's in the 12th house here, which means as you go west, it goes down farther into the first house. So in the Pacific time zone, we're going to have Gemini and actually going down into the second house. So the first and second house, which means in England, it's going to be more of a prominent story for the masses coming out about what's going on. Here in America, things are hidden that will be coming out as the planets go into Cancer, because of course we're a Cancer country. So in June, end of June, early July, what happens during this eclipse is going to come out into the common knowledge. Right now, a lot of it is being hidden. And then as we go across the country into Chicago and Denver and Phoenix and LA and San Francisco, Seattle, all those places on the West Coast, it's going to be much more about how the people themselves are integrating what's going on, and more from I would say center of America, North America, United States of America. It's going to be, Chicago will have more of an identity crisis associated with this to some degree. And then, the West states are going to be going through more of an externalization of this, whereas the Eastern coast is more integrating this on a deeper psychological level because Gemini is in the 12th house. versus the Aries energy as we go farther west, and then finally into the Taurus segment of the chart, which expresses through money, which means California is probably going to feel more of the Gemini energy in a hit to education and to what goes on communications-wise, broadcasting, that sort of thing. Will be interesting to see how this, transits across the country, and it is an eclipse. So, this is identity. This is how is America integrating a shift in identity, a shift in how we look at what we have to say in the world. I know I just read an article about Biden wanting to reestablish democracy based on American ideals of democracy across the world. It'll be interesting to see if that is something that we can do, but I can tell you Saturn in Aquarius and coming into the Cancer sign, Cancer time of the year for America, being a Cancer country, it's time to change. Pluto wants us to shift again, and we're nothing if not a country of change because of the nature of our birth chart. And, we are reinventing ourselves as a country, and we will do so every roughly 250, 260 years as Pluto goes around. Anyway, I hope this has been somewhat enlightening for you. I wish I had a few people sending me questions, but I guess that's what you get for moving off of a platform that promotes your podcast a little bit more than others. Anyway, going to address that. We're going to keep trying to promote it. If you know somebody who might be interested in learning about this, please do send this podcast link to them. Like, comment, subscribe below on YouTube and also SoundCloud. Please do share the link on SoundCloud, like it on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and let's put this out there more. And I want to thank you for joining me every week, and take care of yourself. Please do think seriously about how you interact with social situations. And we are still in a pandemic, even though there have been some loosening of restrictions. I do think that we're going to see an increase of this for the last half of the year. And then let me just, before we go, find out where we're at with Jupiter at the end of the year, because Jupiter will be going back into Pisces, and that will happen December 30th, maybe 29th. So the last 3 days of the year, this year we had all of the energy hitting, I think it was in Capricorn. Let me just look at that real quick before I sign off. I know, psych, thought I was leaving. Uranus was changing, and then the end of last year towards New Year's, what did we have? Oh, I know what it was. Yeah, January was a really big month this year of shifts from the planets. So Uranus went direct. Mars shifted into Sagittarius. We had Venus go into Pisces. It was Uranus changing signs. Jupiter had just gotten into Aquarius. And Saturn, I think, just turned direct from the end of last year. Anyway, so many things. But yeah, this year we've got Jupiter going back into Pisces the end of the year. So I think we have at least 6 more months of COVID and at least heightened awareness of how we interact. So be cautious, be conscientious, and definitely set your new moon intention, because it is a new moon. I guess I really didn't talk much about that. It's in the middle decan, which is 10 degrees, first 10 degrees. Middle 10 degrees is the fixed part, and the last 10 degrees is the mutable. So the fixed, it's wrapping up the fixed story, going into flexibility, going into the energy of the last decan, which is the Aquarius decan. And so it is about the mindset of the people and finishing off the old story about inflexibility of our ideas and how we think and the process of that. So new moon is always an initiation energy. On a solar eclipse, it's about the ego, about where we set with our knowledge and how we interact and communicate with the outer world and what we have to say as individuals. Gemini specifically, the first quadrant of the zodiac, ruling the communications and education. So we're learning and we're growing. And I want you to be open to new ideas. I've got chills all over telling you that. Anyway, you have a great, great week. It's going to be rocking and rolling, and we'll see you here next week. Take care. Bye.
Well, check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, ShelleyOverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the Astro Energy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.